welcome to another episode of Hole in the Wall. Today we are going to talk about the vaccine mandate that happened forever ago in September when President Biden addressed it and made it a mandatory thing. But as of over a week ago, because I'm late to the game, I am going to talk about the Fifth Circuit. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. So basically what that is I looked it up because I didn't know exactly what the Fifth Circuit was myself. So I went on to ballotpedia.org and I looked up all the information on there of what the Fifth Circuit is and the definition of it. So the Fifth Circuit jurisdiction areas locations are Eastern, Middle, and Western Louisiana, Northern and Southern Mississippi, Eastern, Northern, Southern, and Western Texas. So all of these areas in 3 states will mesh into the Fifth Circuit and its jurisdiction. So it's essentially like a giant court, federal court level in a sense. And then you go on to what the definition is of the Fifth Circuit, which is the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit is a federal appellant court with appellant jurisdiction. It hears appeals from all the circuit courts within its jurisdiction, and rulings may be appealed to the Supreme Court of the United States. So essentially, you got your mayors, governors, the state, and then jurisdictions, circuits, areas, and then Supreme Court, and it's a ladder of all that. So it's little by little that climbs up. So I also wanted to go delve a little bit deeper and see I also wanted to delve a little bit deeper and see the average executive orders of what presidents have done, because I knew that President Biden's was up there, but I wasn't sure how much. So from ballotpedia.org, quote, average number of executive orders issued each year by presidents. So you have Donald Trump, which is 2017 to 2021, which was 55. Then you go on to Barack Obama from 2009 to 2017, which was 35. You go on to George W. Bush from 2001 to 2009, which is 36. And then Bill Clinton from 1993 to 2001, which was 46. So if we go to our recent president, Biden, just this year alone, which is 11 months, has been 71. 71 executive orders. That is the highest since I believe the 60s. So 50 years. It's been 50 years since a president has done about that much executive orders. So we go on to the actual 22-page report of the Fifth Circuit. So it's 22 pages. I didn't delve that deep into it. I read a good chunk of it. And so I basically did the highlights of what the Fifth Circuit talked about and the appeal that they did. Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals put emergency temporary hold on the COVID-19 vaccine mandate. The Court of Appeals published a 22-page report ordering the federal government to stop enforcement. The court said it was fatally flawed. This is what it says. The United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. They filed a report on November 12th, 2021 between the petitioners versus the respondents. So the respondents are OSHA, which is Occupational Safety and Health Administration. And then you go on to the petitioners that are Occupational Safety and Health, Department of Labor, Secretary, U.S. Department of Labor. So, if you go to bottom of page 9, line 15, it will say, in prior litigations, OSHA acknowledged that many workplaces covered by COVID-19 ETS are not merely workplaces, but are also stores, restaurants, and other places occupied by workers and the general public alike, in which the measures called for require a border lens and at times a border mandate than available to OSHA. Also, if we go on to page 10, paragraph B, it says, a natural first step in enacting a lawful ETS is to show that employees covered by the ETS are in fact exposed to the dangerous substances, agents, or hazards at issue here, COVID-19. As it pertains to the vast majority of private employees covered by the mandate, however, OSHA fails to meet this threshold burden. If you go on to page 11, paragraph C, equally problematic, however, is that it remains unclear that COVID-19, however tragic and devastating the pandemic has been, poses the kind of grave danger 655C1 contemplates. For starters, the mandate itself concedes that the effects of COVID-19 may range from mild to critical. COVID-19 vaccines authorized or approved by the FDA effectively protect vaccinated individuals against severe illness and death from COVID-19. The administration's prior statements in this regard further belie the notion that COVID-19 poses the kind of emergency that allows OSHA to take the extreme measures of an ETS. It is thus critical to note that the mandate makes no serious attempt to explain why OSHA and the president himself were against vaccine mandates before they were for one here. May 30th, 1989, Occupational Exposure to Bloodborne Pathogens was published. They wrote, quote, health in general is an extensively personal matter. OSHA prefers to encourage rather than try to force by governmental coercions in a vaccine program, unquote. A letter from the Principal Deputy Assistant of OSHA to the President of AFL-CIO issued on May 29, 2020. Hereinafter, acknowledging as a general matter that it, quote, would not be necessary for OSHA to issue an ETS to protect workers from infectious disease, unquote, because, quote, OSHA lacks evidence to conclude that all infectious diseases to which employees may be exposed at a workplace constitute a grave danger for which an ETS is an appropriate remedy, unquote. Now, if we go to page 13, paragraph D. Likewise, a naturally immune unvaccinated worker is presumably at less risk than an unvaccinated worker who has never had the virus. The list goes on, but one constant remains. The mandate fails to almost completely to address or even respond to much of this reality and common sense. Based on substantial evidence, OSHA determines that an ETS is not necessary, both because there are existing OSHA and non-OSHA standards that address COVID-19, and because the ETS would actually be counterproductive to address all employers and to do so with the dispatch. An ETS would, at best, be an enrichment of those general and universal known measures that are already enforceable through existing OSHA tools that require employers to assess and address extent hazards. OSHA's time and resources are better spent issuing industry-specific guidance that address real substance and permits flexible as we learn more about the virus. So if we go down to page 15, indeed, even in its fullest force, the mandate cannot prevent vaccinated employees from spreading the virus in the workplace or prevent unvaccinated employees from spreading the virus in between weekly testing. Now, I have gone on to actually talk about that in my place of work when I was briefly living in Oregon. And I worked for a medical facility that made N95 masks, and they also made air filters that filtered the air in hospitals all over the world. And I had addressed this to the manager and my fellow employees that were contemplating what the vaccine was going to do for them. And I went to them and addressed this, and I said this same exact thing that the Fifth Circuit just put in their report. I didn't understand how testing unvaccinated people would prevent other vaccinated people or unvaccinated people from getting COVID-19 if they're doing it every 2 weeks, which doesn't make sense to me at all. And I just didn't understand it because Delta, obviously, you can show signs within 2-3 days versus the first variant that it would take about a week or two before you would show signs. So if they were only testing every 2 weeks and you were showing signs within 2 to 3 days, that doesn't make sense to me or to anyone else that I spoke to. So this was a very good point that the Fifth Circuit brought to the attention of OSHA and the public, because it just didn't make sense at all. I was watching Sam Cedar with the Majority Report with Sam Cedar, and I was watching a live feed on November 19th of 2021. So I caught just a glimpse of what he was saying, that the unvaccinated are the ones spreading the virus over the vaccinated. I can see where he's coming from, but again, as the Fifth Circuit just reported and put in their 22-page report, the vaccinated can still spread the virus. And it's still plausible, and they are actually, majority of them think that they are immune and they don't spread the virus. I work with people that are vaccinated in a kitchen that don't wear their masks, and I'm the only one that wears masks. Now, granted, I am unvaccinated, but that's my personal choice, and I have talked to my doctor about that and my health concerns. So, I am unvaccinated, but the fact of the matter is everyone should be wearing a mask, period. That's my opinion. I think regardless if you're vaccinated or not, you should be wearing one. But majority of people that I've come in encounter with that are vaccinated think that they are now immune and they will never get it. So I'm sorry, from what I have observed and seen in everyday life and my personal experience with people that I work with, I see them spreading it more than me. Because people like myself that are unvaccinated wear our masks and wash our hands, and we're overly cautious of getting it. And then those that are vaccinated don't care and don't wear masks and go out in public without one. So I would have to say that he is wrong in that fact. But I didn't look up the statistics to it. I'm only going off my own personal experience of what I've seen in everyday life and who I've encountered. So, from my perspective, that's wrong. Maybe it's different where he lives and the people he encounters, but I would say that statement is completely false. So, we move on to NPR. They published an article as of August 20th, 2021. In Isreal of this year, they had reported how their country had fully vaccinated their population. March 25th of 2021, they had over half of their people receive the shots. At that point, they had reopened, living normal lives. By June, all restrictions, including indoor masks, were abolished. Doctors say that those that are seriously ill who are currently hospitalized were fully vaccinated at least 5 months ago. Those who are unvaccinated are mostly healthy people, young between 12 to 20 years old, whose conditions deteriorated quickly. So my side note that I thought of is they did not say the specifics of what deterioration meant. Did they decline as in having all the symptoms, or did they die because of getting COVID-19? Now, reports in America say that those that are younger, between 12 and 20, kids, young adults, they may get it because they're unvaccinated, but they recover a lot quicker, and then they go on to have the antibodies. And so in the long run, essentially, the vaccine mandate is ill and void at this point, unless you are funded by the federal government in any way, shape, or form. If your job is funded by them, then yes, the vaccine mandate still applies to you. But if you are a private company that isn't funded by the federal government in any way, shape, or form, and they are still trying to push this mandate on you, you can take this whole 22-page report that is signed by them and give it to your employer and tell them if they don't keep your job, you will sue them and you will see them in court. And you will win because they cannot do anything until the Supreme Court rules otherwise. So stay informed, do your homework, and use that beautiful little brain that the universe gave you. All right, I will catch you guys later.
Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicia. Bye.